Hello everyone, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. It is the day after Thanksgiving, Friday. It's that day where you regret all of the extra things you ate and drank that you maybe ought not to have. I hope you had great time with family members. I hope you enjoyed tormenting your political opponents at the dinner table. It's hard to imagine, all the terror that that Thanksgiving has become. Anyways, all good, all in good humor. I hope you had, and all in good, good fun and lots of love. Anyways, I'm going to do one video today, one video only, and I will do the weekly wrap up for tomorrow as well. So be on the lookout for that. Today is a very special presentation. I'm going to do Shit Hits the Fan at the Movies. The Apocalypse, Armageddon, or any movie that has anything that could really relate a strong sense and understanding to what we can expect and learn from movies when shit hits the fan. I started, the very first one I did was The Thing by John Carpenter, and that was because I thought it would be great. But this is the obvious one. It is. But I'm going to make it special in a way. I'm going to do two movies in one. Two movies in one. I'm going to do Mad Max and The Road Warrior. Not because it's cliche, but because so many people want it. It's so obvious and it has such great lessons in it. Movies can be entertaining, but they can also contain so many clues, and even B movies, because you could say both these movies are B movies. They're guerrilla filmed, they're low budget, but I think the characters, the actors, everyone bought into the film, what it was about, and that's what made them great. It was, it absolutely made them great. So I'm going to do both movies because it goes from Shit Hits the Fan light in the first movie to Shit Hits the Fan heavy duty in The Road Warrior. But we do just talk about, a really bad SHTF as being Mad Max, right? And the reason I want to do both these movies in order is it kind of shows Max Rockatansky going from near normal all the way across to being something quite different, right? It's a movie about civilization and the way people behave and law and order and also one man's experience through it, what we can expect as humans, right? We're introduced into the movie after this Shit Hits the Fan event has happened. So we don't know what it was like before. So it could be any time. But we're introduced to this idea of difficulties, societal problems between people, resources, etc. So that's where we step in. So that to me says, hey, look, shit hits the fan. Everything can be fine one day, and the next day it can just happen. It can be changed, right? Seeming normality can slowly disintegrate. Whatever this thing is that happens, it happens, right? But in the movie Mad Max, right? Time. I mean, how do I describe this? We see in the movie Max going from near normal to something quite different, and we get to experience it in 90 minutes, in the length of the movie. But the character is shown going through what could be weeks, right? You could draw and drag out the Mad Max movie across a year time frame, but in this case it's a relative short period of time. But we get to watch the disintegration. It's slow, but it's fast. It's not a mild thing, right? Most movies you see, a character is introduced, they have some wonderful experiences or adventures, and then it's over in just a matter of days in the movie time, and nothing really changes in their life. But in this case, it's quite dramatic. Okay, I do have notes, by the way, because it is a very complex topic. In our world, in Shit It's the Fan, relationships are going to get smaller. Our world is going to get smaller. I talk about quite often, it's the 10-mile radius around us. Right? And in Max's case, we see how quickly his world becomes small. He's now just a highway patrolman. He's got his wife and child. He's got his boss. He's got a coworker. You know, he's not immensely popular. His world isn't huge. He's got his one little city in his district. Instantly, when Shit Hits the Fan, our world does get small. Even though they had cars at this time in the story, yeah, gas is becoming less available. Resources are becoming more scarce. There's a lot of conflict between a lot of characters. There's desperation, etc. Right? So Max has got his boss. He's got Goose, his partner and friend. He's got his wife and then his child, and that's it. That's, you know, the world shrinks. And it's demonstrated in this because we're not shown a broader world. We're not talking, they don't talk about what happened, other cities, other people. There's not a lot going on. It really comes down to just that. And they're trying to hang on to civilization. And so by making Mad Max a policeman, it really helps draw our attention to that, right? It becomes very small, right? There's no wondering about anything else. His job is to try and hold it all together, but the world gets smaller, the characters get smaller, right? And then another part of his world that develops is the antagonist, right? The toe cutter and his gang, right? And slowly through the movie, piece by piece, that world it disappears. He was told, take a vacation, you know, try and relax, right? And what happened, right? Well, Goose was killed, his partner and friend. His wife and child are killed, and then he snaps, right? He's lost those last few things he had left. So can we expect, when Shit Hits the Fan, that something like that will happen? It could happen, it may happen, hopefully it doesn't happen. But we're using a film to kind of think about the potentials, possibilities, and what it'll do to us psychologically. And that's why Mad Max, right? Mad, not Angry Max, Crazy Max, right? Mad Max, rather the English version of the word mad. He's mad, he's crazy, he's losing it. And we get to watch that transformation from one end to the other as he tries holding on to the world of work, friendship, family, civility, civilization, law and order, and it all slowly disintegrates, right? Everything disintegrates, and people are reduced to alternative rules, tribalism, actions are fear-based, right? And even the gang, you know, the gang has its rules, and it has problems with it, right? So the motives behind living through this movie, the motives the characters have, they're more guttural, they're more basic, right? They're very simple in a lot of ways, right? Everyone's been reduced to that, even the gang, right? Obviously, well, we normally think of gangs as having their own rules and they're lawless, but even they have rules and they have needs. And so we get to examine what happens to this bike gang and how it, while at one point, you know, it's this wild bike gang, it starts to fall apart too, right? Because Shit Hits the Fan affects everybody. It doesn't strengthen a gang. It's just they're already living with more tribalism and lawlessness. But the lawlessness of the whole world is brought down to their level. And so everyone begins to act and operate on this level playing field. Right? Max becomes one of them in a way. Now, he's the protagonist, the good guy, but what does he end up doing? Hunting everyone down and killing them. Right? That's not civil, but at the same time, you're rooting for him. The guy's lost everything. Right? But his lawlessness is down to that of the gang level, and it's who's the better killer, who's the better hunter, who's, you know, it's really an amazing story that's told. Right? But I want to go back to the bike gang and how even their motives are affected. The harder things get for them, they're reduced. So there's a character in the movie, and he's the number 2 antagonist. He's the vice antagonist. He's his character named Bubba Zanetti. Even as a bad guy, he tries to hold their gang to their level of civilization, right? Well, here's civilization, here's gangs, and then here's where, right, humanity can drop to, right? So he recommends to Toe Cutter, the bad guy, lead bad guy, he needs to discipline this Johnny the boy, right? And then at the end, Bubba Zanetti is trying to give some meaning, some ritual, some value to killing Mad Max. No one else will see it. Mad Max would see it, but then he'd be dead. Bubba Zanetti would be doing it, and then the Toe Cutter is the only other witness, while Johnny the boy witnessed it from afar. But he wanted to try and keep some sort of meaning and value to their gang. And in his attempt to do so, he gets killed for it. Toe Cutter takes off, Johnny the boy takes off, right? But even at that level, that gang tribalistic thug level, they're still trying to hold on, and they lose it. It goes away from them, right? So even the warlords, they need order, they need discipline, they need stuff, they need civility, they need understanding and thought. But that's evaporating in this world as SHTF gets darker and darker and darker, right? When Max is stripped of his civilization, when all humanity is stripped of it and the accoutrements of it, we can be forced into a world we're not accustomed to, and it can appear ugly and cruel. But I say it can also, even though it's ugly and cruel, that ugliness and cruelness becomes necessary to survive. Right, that's what I don't want for Shit-Eating the Fan, is I don't want that ugly world. Right, that's why I say get prepared. And I'll touch on that here and again in a second. Now, the Road Warrior is a direct sequel to Mad Max. Max continues, and we pick up essentially where he left off, right? But as resources drain, we become lower beings, right? Instead of higher thoughts, higher on the Maslowian pyramid, we're more guttural, more lower, dealing with food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, right? All the things we talk about, right? But they put the movie in the desert, Australian desert, and that helps the storytelling, because in other areas where we're at, we could have gardens, livestock, water, right? And we could have communities while we're waiting for civilization to reboot, government to get its act together. Hopefully we don't descend all the way down to Mad Max, shit, it's the fan. So having preps would help us avoid, right, what Max has to deal with, which is desolation. So they tell the story in the desert where water is scarce, resources are non-existent, and people are just at the bottom. So desolation makes the story work, right? But we don't want to fall to this level where Mad Max picks up, right, in the Road Warrior. We don't want to be that low, right? And to demonstrate how low he is at this point, Max has a dog, right, a healer dog. They work, live, they think as a team, right? And you see this in the movie, and everyone goes, look at how cool that dog is. It's a smart dog, and healer dogs are pretty smart. It's cool, they're bonded, this and that. I don't look at this as an elevation of the dog. I look at this as how Max has descended to where he's like the dog. The dog is like him, he's like the dog. The dog has come up very smart because of all this attention and time and coolness that animals have. Not putting the dog down. I'm putting Max down as a human. He doesn't have to talk, right? He and the dog just think alike. They're a team. He captures the helicopter guy, right? Ties him up, puts a bone with a string to a trigger on the shotgun that's pointing at the helicopter pilot's head in the dog's mouth, so that if the guy does anything crazy, the dog just has to move and pull the string and blow the guy away. But the dog sees a rabbit, doesn't get excited, and doesn't kill the guy. So it's interesting in this one scene here in Road Warrior where the dog appears to be very smart. Well, he is. On the other hand, It shows the fear of the pilot knowing this dog has his life, right? In other words, the life of humans is in the hands of very unintelligent creatures, right? And quick, rash decisions can cost you your life. There's so much symbolism in these movies that if you look for it, you get past the entertainment of it, you know, and the action, and you start looking at how they portrayed things and what you can get out of it. It's loaded with information. And what also comes out of this movie is we get into basic human interactions. Quid pro quo, if you will. Deal making. Right? They make crude deals. Max and the helicopter pilot. Right? Max needs fuel. The helicopter pilot, in order to save his life, says, I know where it's at. They show up. They sees Lord Humongous and his gang harassing a very small oil drilling refining operation that's fighting for its survival. And that's what a lot of the movie circulates around, is what's going to happen between this group that has a resource, and it could be any resource, but for the movie it's about roads and cars and Road Warrior, it's fuel. So that's a valuable resource, and another gang that wants it, marauders and preppers, you could say. And the preppers want to escape with their lives, and the marauders want to kill everybody and take the resource for themselves, because it's the most important thing. That's how it's kind of played up, right? But we see this deal-making concept. So first, Max makes a very crude deal with the helicopter guy. And then Max gets to... He saves a guy's life that tried to escape, and he gets caught by the gang. Max saves his life, makes a deal with him to get him back, but he dies before he makes it back to this refinery group. And he says, hey, I had a deal with this guy. And the leader of the group says, well, he's dead now, so your deal died with him. So we have very crude deals, and then we have very crude ideas put around it. Well, why should we give you anything? Your deal was with that guy. Our resources are so scarce and shit, it's the fan. That people, you know, they're going to be very crude, very selfish. You know, what type of morality lesson can we learn from this? Right? People will do anything to get out of a deal, or do anything to get what they need and want. And there's some great exchanges also between the leader of this group and Max. He attacks Max, calls him names, puts him down, says you're only caring about yourself, you're low as they are out there, etc., etc., etc. Right? He's trying to hold his group in this idea of civilization together, and their escape from the desert, and their escape from this warring warlord situation where they've got a resource. They want to escape that. They want to get the fuck out. They want to bug out and go to a safer place. Right? But it's a crude story. It's guerrilla filmed like all their other works, like Mad Max and The Road Warrior. It's very crude, but that's what humanity becomes in Shit It's the Fan. That's why it makes it such a compelling story and has such great lessons. The acting in it is great. Oh, these are, you know, whoever heard of these actors? Mel Gibson was a nobody at the time. All these actors are Australian. You know, who cares? No, they're actually, they play the parts well. The bravery, the insanity, right? A guy gets killed or gets his hand cut off and everyone starts laughing. Well, that's not funny. That guy's going to die. But they don't have humor, and that substitutes for humor for them. Right? It's incredible. You know, because again, resources like civility. Civility becomes a resource or something of value, and they don't have it. Remember when you could laugh at a TV show? Well, not in Road Warrior. They don't have humor anymore. There's not a lot of laughing in the film. Why not? There's not a lot to laugh about. And to try and remember humor and remember laughter, they find it in the guy losing his hand. You know, it's bizarre, because that's what that world becomes. Lord Humongous. This is the leader of the gang in the second movie, in Road Warrior. He's this massive Swedish bodybuilder who's wearing a ski mask. And he appears to be under that ski mask hideous. His head is bald, but he's got some hair growing out of it. So you know he's horribly disfigured. His head, representing the mind, is disfigured. His body is strength, but his head is disfigured. But he's also intelligent. He's the leader of this gang, right? He's fierce. He's powerful, right? And he's power, but it's ugly power, right? His head is ugly. His mind is ugly. So the power is used for ugly purposes. But he's also smart. He offers peace, but he threatens death. We're going to see all this kind of stuff if shit hits the fan, goes to Road Warrior Mad Max level, right? But another part of this character comes out, right? He shows sorrow at one point and says, there's too much death, too much bad stuff has happened today, so we're going to go away, right? This character, he shows sorrow at this point, how the mighty have fallen, right? So even within Lord Humongous, watch the movie. He's this bad, ugly person who wants to kill everyone. At the same time, you could see that at one point, or understand, he's hideous and ugly, but he was smart. And there's going to be a lot of people like that who are brilliant, but can become these ugly creatures. But they know better, right? And they suffer for it, and even repent at times. So you can imagine when shit hits the fan, people are going to do awful things, knowing they're awful, knowing what they're doing, knowing they shouldn't, knowing better. But they'll do it, and they'll repent later. They'll be sorry later. But they have to do it because of whatever comes to mind. And in the finale, the risk of life for what we consider to be worthless today or of very little value, fuel. Go get a gallon of gas, no problem. In this movie, it's everything, right? And they're going to risk lives trying to get away, trying to get the stuff, right? They're single-minded, the bad guys, in their pursuit of that which they want. For the movie, it's fuel. You know, food, water, whatever someone doesn't have that they need, it's going to be something that they start to risk life for in a single-minded fashion. And shit hits the fan, things will be valued way differently than we value them today. Food today? I'm full. You know, throw the food out. Give it to the dog. And shit hits the fan, every morsel will be eaten. You will lick the plate, right? There'll be no throwing food away. Even rotten food will be put to use somehow, right? That's just food, right? Everything will be valued far differently. And the motive to get those things will change. Right now, food, you know, the motive, the way we look at it, what it is, it's life. Right? Food is life. Right now, it's fun, it's delicious, it's something to do. Let's go out and eat. Make it part of our entertainment. The value is, which restaurant do you want? We've got 10 to choose from. Right? When shit hits the fan, now it's going to be valued. People are going to change their thinking about it, and they're going to risk. Risk for everything will be assessed, right, to get these things that we want. And the upshot of all of this is if we are prepared, it'll help us understand what is happening around us. Right? Go back to Mad Max at the beginning. Shit has hit the fan, but it's not that bad. Things are still kind of working, but it goes down. It kind of deteriorates. And if you're a prepper and you have a plan, an understanding of what's going on around us, we can understand as we go through these levels, you know, so we don't get lowered to where you are the same as a dog, to where you become an incredible lowlife, where you don't become a marauder, where your motivations become negative and evil, and then where you risk your life for a mouthful of food, right? Where you come to rely on things, you know, you don't want to have to rely on things that are unreliable. You know, the movie shows that the bad guy. They need to catch the fuel. And he's relying on a bunch of wacko crazy dudes who have lost their minds. Imagine having to rely on that. But that's his resource, right? The Lord Humongous. His resource is managing all these knuckleheads to try and get something that they all want. You know, and they're willing to risk their lives to get it in the big finale. Right? And it turns out that they get nothing. Spoiler alert. They don't get what they wanted. They win, but they don't get what they wanted. And that in itself is a huge lesson. It was a distraction. It was false. The things that we think are important turn out to not be what we were after. The salvation we wanted. Fuel. Right? It wasn't there. It was a big trick. It was a sham. You know, the double-crossing nature of reality. You know, misdirection. All of these things. The movies are just great at showing us this. And so I think that they are key, if looked at, to shit hits the fan. Now, when shit hits the fan, it could be a very slow descent like it is with the Mad Max movie. We could have weeks or months of just interruption, right? Civilizatus interruptus, just slowly, what the heck? But like I said, the movies show what happened over a much wider time, but we get to see it in just a few hours. So lessons learned, I just leave it at that. Lessons learned in a brief time for something that we could be facing very soon. At the very least, we're going to see shit hits the fan light. I hope not. I pray we don't. But you prepare, right? Good Boy Scouts. We all prepare. Because chance favors the prepared mind, right? Is yours. Thank you again for supporting the Prepared Mind channel, network, the R Syndicate, for staying aware, helping yourself, your family, friends, your community. Everything you do is important. Sharing the videos, watching the videos, talking about the subject. You don't have to, you can bring me up, you can direct people to the channel, or you can just use the subject matter for yourself. It's valuable. Even if shit doesn't hit the fan, let's assume that some miracle happens and we don't even get a depression. I can't see how that could happen, but I've been surprised before, and I would rather have that than anything. But there's going to be difficulties. I can't see how we've gotten this far in trouble without having the difficulties that'll follow. 5 years ago, when I first started doing the videos, the world appeared basically normal. And I just saw the risk of going into shit hits the fan. I saw the risk of it happening, the potential. After 5 years of doing these videos and watching the accelerating decline and the loss of civility and intelligent thought, it's, wow. Watch Mad Max. Watch The Road Warrior. Maybe someday I'll take a look at Beyond Thunderdome and talk about it. But if you've got other ideas for SHTF at the movies, let me know. Let me know. And I'll take a look at them, and we'll do more in the future. Like I said, it's a busy schedule I have, and there's a lot to do. But I do enjoy doing these types of videos as well. Semper Fi, always faithful. Godspeed. Have a great weekend.